Hello everyone. Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
So let's start our today's session. So let me share my screen. Okay. So here, if you see, yesterday we have discussed about the group by function, and we have seen like statement, we have seen case when statement, we have seen order by clause, right? So we have seen some sample, of group by, and today we will see the in-depth examples of how actually we can utilize this group by where and case when statements, all these things. Okay, so let us see some examples and then we will jump into the constraints concept today. Okay, so here if you see, I have prepared few examples just to make you comfortable with uh, whatever we have discussed, right? So here if you see, I have a table called orders underscore raw. Okay, I have a table called orders underscore raw. Select star from orders underscore raw. Okay, so this is my table. Okay, I have my order ID, customer name, order date, total amount, and status. Okay, so the first requirement that you got is get me the total sale amount per customer. Okay, so if you see the customer, right? So if you see the customer, so depending on the customer name, you need to find out the total sale that happened. So what is the logic for total sales that you need to identify? That your headache. Okay, that is your headache. So the requirement comes like this, be very very clear. Okay, so get me the total sale done by each employee, sorry, each customer. Okay, so that is the requirement. So for that requirement you need to understand, oh, okay, so now I need to group by customer name, and then I need to sum the total amount so that I'll get the total sale or total money spent by the customer, right? So how you will do that? You will select your customer name, comma, you will use some aggregation function on top of the total amount column, and you have given some some column aliasing, and then the from clause, and then the group by clause. Okay, so the from clause and group by clause. So remember, there is one condition to use group by clause. Okay, so whatever the column that you specify in the group by, that columns only you can specify in the select. Be very very clear. Okay, so for example, you did not specified order ID, but you selected in the select statement. So what will happen? Okay, one second. Okay, so column orders raw underscore order ID is invalid in the select list because it is not contained in either aggregate function or in the group by clause. Okay, so try to understand how your group by is working, right? So when you do group by, it will group your data, entire data set, based on a single column or based on multiple columns. Okay, but once it grouped, it has only the grouping columns. Be very, very clear, it has only the grouping columns, not all the columns. Once it grouped the data, either you have to specify the column in the aggregation function or in the group by. That's it. These are the two things. You cannot simply go and select whatever the columns you required on the grouped set, because grouped set doesn't contain all the columns. Be very, very clear on that front. Okay, once you use group by clause, it will become a grouped set on that column. But grouped set doesn't contain all the columns that you have. But group on top of the grouped set, you can perform aggregation on any of the column. Okay, so you need to understand this condition, right? So here, if you see each customer and the total sale that customer has done, right? See, this is how you'll, combinedly you'll use where clause and group by. So remember the sequence, guys: from, where, and group by. Okay, so you don't have possibility to shift your where to wherever you need. It won't accept. Be very, very clear. Okay, you cannot shuffle your sequence however you want. The reason is, the SQL or SQL, structured query language, will follow its own sequence, right? So we have to follow that sequence. That's it. There is no other go. So now you have filtered your data before group by. So the meaning for this statement is, you applied a where clause before group by. So it filtered the data, then it grouped. Okay, but you have a requirement in such a way that you need to remove the data, or you need to filter the data. You need to filter the data on top of the grouped set. On top of the grouped set. Okay, so how you will do that? So once you grouped the data, then you need to filter. So that is why we have having clause. We have okay. So maybe it is derived column. It won't detect in the same query. It will detect in the in the sub query. Let me do some.
Place it like sum of total amount greater than.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so if you want to apply a filter on top of the group data set, okay, if you want to apply a filter on top of the group data set, you can actually go for having. Okay, so that is the importance of your having clause. So if you want to apply a filter on the total sales also, so you can do this. Okay, so this is how you actually apply the filter on top of the grouped data set. So if you want to filter the data before group by, you can go for where clause. If you want to filter the data after group by, you can go for having. Okay, that is the importance of your having clause. Okay, so now let's go for second use case. So get me the count of orders in January 2024. Okay, so here I have data that is there in the orders table, and I have order date where actually I mean when actually this order has come in, right? So if you see, the requirement is get me the count of orders in Jan 2024. So now let's see how actually we are doing it. So select count of star as January orders. Okay, we are using count function from orders underscore raw table where order date between, see, between and operator we are using. Okay, so this is one of the operator in SQL. Okay, you can will be using, right? So greater than or equals to and less than or equals to, something like this condition. So this condition we can also write it in a different way, uh, like between and. Okay, so between and meaning greater than or equals to and less than. Okay, so that is between and operator. See, we have got 4 orders in Jan 2024. Okay, so now the next example that we are seeing is categorize orders based on their status. Okay, see here we are using case when statement. Okay, and we are taking order ID and total amount, and case when status equals to shipped, then completed, status equals to pending, then in progress. Okay, else cancelled. Okay, so how actually you can modify your status, right? So this is the requirement that you will get. So the reason why I'm pitching all these real world examples is you have to think in a different way. So understanding the requirement and how actually you can solve the problem is something that you need to build. Okay, otherwise no one will come to you and ask you to utilize between and operator, because you are the one who knows SQL, right? So you should know. Okay, so when user asked this thing, you should know you have to use count function, you have to use where clause, and you have to use between and operator. All these things you should know. Okay, so user or business or in real time projects, they will come to you with a requirement. Be very very clear. I have a data set and I need data like this. That's it. You use SQL, you use Python, or you use some other stuff. How you get it's your headache. Depending on the flexibility, depending on the easiest data source that you found, you will get the data. That's secondary. But how you solve that requirement in the technical form is important. Be very very clear. Okay, so this is how you will do the case when statement to classify your shipment status. right? So similarly, I have one more example on top of the books. Okay. So let me select the books table. Okay. So this is my books table, right? I have book ID, title, author, published year, right? And then genre, and then available, right? So I want to calculate the count of books per each genre, right? So in that case, you can go for select genre, count of star as book count from books, and group by genre, right? So in that case, it will group the data based on this genre, and then it will count the number of records in each grouped data set. So that's why we are using count of star. Okay. And you can also specify count of column name also. And the next requirement is list of books published before year 1950. Okay. So before year 1950. So here you have a column called published year, right? Published year. Then in that case, how actually you will do? So you can select the required columns from the table and then apply a where clause on the published year, which is less than 1950. So you will get the required data. Okay. So categorize books based on the availability. That's our third use case, right? So here, if you see, I have book ID and title, and case when available equals to yes, then available, else checked out. Okay. And as availability status. Okay. So this will give some clear cut understanding to the users, saying the book is available or it's checked out, right? And similarly, the time tracking thing, one example we'll see. Okay. So total hours worked per employee. So I have a table called time logs. Okay. I have a table called time logs. So this is my table. And in this table, I have log ID, employee name, log date, hours worked, project code, right? And I want to calculate the total hours worked per employee. Okay. I want to calculate total hours worked per employee. So here you will simply group by the employee name and the sum of hours worked. Okay. And then logs for specific project code. Okay. Logs for specific project code. So you can apply that project code in the where clause. So all simple things only I have applied here. Once we have seen constraints and joins, then I'll give you the tasks in SQL. Okay. So till that point, please hold uh, the tasks expectation. So once we complete constraints and joins, then we'll go for tasks. Okay. But till here, these are the examples that you can actually practice, right? So these are the examples that you actually can practice. So simply, we have seen string functions in SQL, and we have seen date functions. We have seen select. We have seen where. we have seen like statement, we have seen case when, we have seen group by, we have seen order by, having, sum, min, max, average, right? So these are the things that we have seen. And I request you to practice each and every statement that we have discussed. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you when we go for tasks. Okay, fine. So let's jump into the important concept in SQL called constraints. Any questions or queries here in all these statements that we have discussed till now?
ಇಲ್ಲ.
No, Venkat.
Okay, fine. Let's move on to the data integrity part, guys. Okay, so data integrity. Data integrity meaning maintaining the data quality. Okay, so integrity, the term itself is very important in any of the business. You take any business, guys. Okay, the integrity is very important, correct? So integrity meaning maintaining the quality, okay, maintaining the standards, right? So you created tables in database system, but those tables are not storing the proper quality data. So in that case, those tables are useless, or it will overburden your data analyst or data engineer, right? So the main intention behind the integrity is from the web application, from the web application. So when the data enters into the database system, your objects in database system called tables should react to the web application in such a way that, hey, do not give me this data, I don't allow. Hey, give me only this kind of data, I will take. So your objects in the database system are communicating with the web application, or communicating with the user who are communicating with the database, right? So your tables can speak now. Okay, your tables can speak now. The reason is you are giving the intelligence to the tables or database objects in terms of constraints. When you declare constraints on top of the table objects, table can talk to you in such a way that, hey, I will strictly allow this kind of data. Okay, so that is the importance of integrity, guys. So you can check that when you try to insert, or when you try to do some operations from the web UI. Most of the times we'll see this particular key is already present, or this particular name is present in the system. We won't be able to create a Gmail with the same name, right? So how your system is detecting, hey, this name is already there with me, do not please try another name, right? So your system has that intelligence to talk to you in such a way that it can go and identify all the records that it has, and it can tell you, hey, go and take another name, because this name is already there within the system. So that's where you can go and check your Gmail, and then you'll try different permutations with your name, right? So Venkat 143 or Venkat 113 or something like that I'll do, and then I'll create the Gmail. But if I try to create Venkateshwarlu at the rate gmail.com, then what will happen? What it will say? There are multiple there are multiple entries in my system if you enter this, right? So you should understand how important the quality of the data that is coming into the system, right? Even in a typical banking system, account number should not be repeated. Why banking, guys? Let's take your college roll numbers. Did you identify a roll number which got repeated to another student? No, right? So that is where the data integrity comes into the picture. So you need to maintain that quality or that standard when you are dealing with your database system. Okay, so understand and look your surroundings itself. Take your banking system. You don't have a same account number repeated for your couple of people, or for that matter for any other people. So the account number is a single record that will be maintained for you. Okay, so it is unique for you guys, even for the roll number, the Gmail, or any other accounts you create in the social media, even WhatsApp. So for a single phone number, single account. But if you try to create a new one, it will ask you to open it, right? So in WhatsApp also, it will send the verification code if it is already there. So you need to understand the integrity of the data, the control that we are giving to the database objects, right? So this is the importance of the data integrity. How we will give this intelligence to the database objects is completely data engineer responsibility. Okay, how we will give the intelligence to the tables? We have a concept in databases called constraints. Okay, so constraints are multiple types. You have primary key constraint, we have foreign key constraint, we have unique constraint, we have not null constraint, we have check constraint, we have default constraint. There is one more constraint, default constraint, right? So these are the constraints, or these are the different types of constraints we can utilize to apply some intelligence to your database tables. Okay, we will take one by one and we will see its importance. What is the use of this particular constraint? How we will apply it on top of a database table? We will see all these details. Okay, so today let's start with primary key constraint. Let's start with primary key constraint. Okay, so here if you see, I'm trying to create a table with primary key constraint. With primary key constraint. So the syntax for it is you have to create the constraints when you are creating your table metadata. Okay, so here if you see, I'm creating a table called employees primary key, or else I'll create a table called employees underscore info. Okay, and in this table I have an employee ID column, and I want it to be unique for each employee. Okay, the business is, for every employee I will give a unique identity number. That's the reason when you enter into any kind of a company, you will get an employee ID. So that employee ID is not duplicated across the employees. Be very clear. So any kind of a company will assign an employee ID to you. That employee ID is unique for you, and it is only for you. Okay. So how your database will understand that? So that is the reason we will declare primary key constraint. Okay. That is the reason we'll declare primary key constraint. Primary key constraint meaning it will allow a value into this employee ID column only once. It won't allow any kind of duplicate entries into this column. That is the meaning for primary key constraint. When you are declaring a primary key constraint, your column should be acting like a unique column. It won't have any kind of duplicate entries. Okay, and one more thing is, it won't allow null values. It won't allow null values. Okay, so let us test it. So I'm creating a table called employees underscore info. I have created it. Okay, I'm trying to insert data, insert into employees underscore info values. Okay, values. So employee ID 1001. Okay, and then name Venkat, and then department, let us say HR, right? So one row affected, we successfully inserted one record into the employees underscore info table, where my employee ID is primary key constraint. So now select star from employees info. So I have my record here. Okay, now I'm trying to insert one more record into the table with the same ID, with the same ID. Okay, so when I do this, my system will automatically detect violation of primary key constraint, cannot insert duplicate key. You need to understand the error also. It's very, very important, guys. Okay, so when you declare a primary key constraint on top of a column, you cannot enter any kind of a duplicate entries into that column. Okay, so when I do this, it will definitely allow. Okay, similarly, if you are not, if you are trying to insert any kind of a null value, into your system, then automatically it will fail. Your column does not allow nulls. Your column does not allow null values. Okay, so your primary key constraint, the meaning for your primary key constraint is, it won't allow duplicate values, and also it won't allow null values. Okay, so that is the importance of your primary key constraint. Any questions, guys? Any questions or queries on primary key?
No.
Everybody able to understand? Ranganath, Prakati?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So this is the primary key constraint. Now let's jump in to the next constraint, which is the most important constraints in database world, which is actually the foreign key constraint. Okay, which is actually the foreign key constraint. Now I'm creating a table, another table which is actually the department table. And I have departments table. And in the department table, I have the department ID and department name, wherein my department ID is a primary key type. I have created my table, okay, and then I am creating another table. Okay, so here my employees, I will just try to drop my employees info table. Okay, so I dropped it. Now I'm creating another table. See here, what I'm trying to do, I have employees underscore info table. Okay, I'm creating employees underscore info table, create table employees underscore info, and I'm declaring my employee ID column as a primary key, and I have my name column, and I have my department ID column. Okay, and then I'm declaring my foreign key on top of my department ID. See here, foreign key of department ID. See, in the same table, I have employee ID, which is a primary key. But what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create a foreign key on top of the department ID, and then references departments of department ID. So let us understand this statement, guys. This statement, the meaning of this statement is very important. What you can do with the foreign key is you can relate your database objects. Be very, very clear. In a typical database system, I already told you database is this place where we can store our objects and events that are part of the business, right? In a typical business, we have multiple different objects. We have a customer object, we have a owner object, we have employee object, we have products object, right? So every object has its own state in the database. Be very, very clear. Each and every object can store the data, right? So you create the customer table, you create the products table, you create the owner table, you create the employees table, you create the departments table. Every object is storing the data into the respective tables. But how these objects can talk to each other, you need to establish a relation between all these tables, right? That relation is possible with the foreign key. Be very, very clear. Here I created a departments table, and this employees info is another table. But what I'm establishing a relation from employees info table to departments table. So how I'm applying, I'm creating a child relation. Okay, the parent key is in departments table. Departments table department ID is your parent key, but the department ID column is also present in the employees info. But this department ID is referring to your department ID in the departments table. Okay, if you want to extract the department name for each employee, then how you will do, you will use a department ID to talk to this department table. You need to understand the concept, guys. the relation between the database objects, the relation between two tables will be defined or will be declared by using the foreign key. The syntax for this foreign key is foreign key of your column name. References you need to provide. Where is the parent key? Where is the parent key exist for this particular foreign key? So we also call foreign key as child key. Okay, you need to apply the references to declare a foreign key function or to declare a foreign key constraint, right? So you can do lot many things, guys. So this is not simply, creating a table and storing the data. Do not underestimate the power of your database system, simply, right? So you can do a lot many things and get ready to dig deeper into the database world, right? So we will see the examples of foreign key system tomorrow, and we'll also cover the different constraints that we have and their importance in tomorrow's session. And tomorrow we will also try to complete the joins concept. Okay, we will also try to complete the joins concept tomorrow. And the day after tomorrow is where actually we'll see all the analytics functions, advanced analytics functions, and then we will assign a big use case, or we will give a lot of tasks for you to solve on Friday. Okay, that's where we can close the sequel. Okay, and starting from the next week we will jump into the cloud computing. Okay, so you'll try to experience the cloud computing and the basics of cloud computing, how actually your cloud will work, what is cloud computing, why we need cloud. We will see that introduction first. Then we will jump into the Google Cloud platform, right? So how a Google Cloud looks like, right? So how actually a Google Cloud looks like. So this is your Google Cloud platform. So console.cloud.google.com. You work in your personal laptop or you work in organization, this is your Google Cloud platform link, right? So we will try to slowly dig into this or jump into this cloud world as well. But by Friday, we have to complete our SQL concepts. Okay. So today we have seen primary key and we have seen introduction of foreign key. Okay, and we will see foreign key examples tomorrow, and then we will try to complete these constraints also, unique, not null, and check constraints. Okay, hope you all understanding. Any questions or queries?
No.
No, Venkat.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. That's all I have for today. Once again tomorrow.
Thank you.